Barnaby was a tiny star sprite who lived on the very edge of the Moonflower Meadows, a quiet cosmic valley where the grass was made of glowing silver threads and the flowers bloomed only when the starlight was softest. He had round, velvety ears, soft pearlescent silver fur that shimmered in the dark, and a gentle golden glow that radiated from his warm core. Barnaby loved his quiet home, but tonight he felt a strange, cold draft that seemed to blow from the deepest, emptiest corners of the sky, making him shiver. The meadow was usually a place of absolute safety and comfort, a cradle of soft light and sweet fragrances, but the chill in the air tonight made him feel small and remarkably alone. He watched the glowing grass sway in the breeze, each silver blade whispering a quiet, rustling secret to the next, yet none of their words could warm the sudden coldness he felt within. The moon blossoms in the meadow began to open their petals, releasing a sweet, sleepy fragrance that drifted across the valley like a gentle wave of comfort. Barnaby watched them glow in shades of soft lavender, pale blue, and warm indigo, but the cool breeze remained, whispering of distant, lonely spaces far beyond the valley's edge. He sat on a smooth, rounded rock that had been warmed by the daytime sunbeams, hugging his knees close to his chest. He wondered why the familiar warmth of his home felt just out of reach tonight, and if there was a way to find a warmth that could never be blown away by the cold wind, a warmth that would stay with him no matter how far he drifted. The flowers seemed to nod in agreement, their glowing centers pulsing in a slow, relaxing rhythm that urged the world to rest, yet Barnaby's mind remained awake, searching the dark sky for answers. He remembered the stories the elder sprites would tell around the hearth fire on cold winter nights, tales of the great hug from the universe, a legendary embrace that was said to fill any cold heart with infinite peace and everlasting warmth. They spoke of it not as a physical touch or a simple blanket, but as a deep, mystical warmth that would envelop a weary traveler, making them feel completely safe, cherished, and forever connected to the cosmos. The elders had described it with soft, reverent whispers, explaining that those who felt the hug would never feel lonely or cold again, for they would know that the universe itself was holding them. Barnaby decided that he would go on a journey to find this legendary embrace, hoping it would chase away the cold shiver in his chest and bring him the deep, lasting peace he longed for. With a determined nod, Barnaby packed his small satchel with a handful of glowing stardust to light his path and a single silver seed from a moon blossom to remind him of the home he was leaving behind. He strapped the satchel over his shoulder, checking the latch to ensure his treasures were secure, and took one last, long look at the peaceful valley that had always been his sanctuary. With a deep breath, he stepped off the edge of the meadow into the dark, velvety air, feeling the cool wind catch his silver shawl. He did not fly fast. Instead, he drifted slowly, letting his small golden light guide him through the quiet, open sky where the stars twinkled like distant, friendly eyes, watching over him as he took his first steps into the unknown. As he traveled further from home, the familiar silver grass of the meadows faded into a deep indigo expanse, and the air grew quieter, more still, and filled with a profound silence that seemed to stretch on forever. Barnaby felt a small flicker of doubt in his core, the vast emptiness of the open space threatening to overwhelm his tiny spirit, but he remembered the warmth of the hearth fire stories and kept moving forward. The cosmic wind was gentle now, no longer shivering cold but acting as a soft hand, pushing him along a path that seemed to form naturally before him. This path of soft starlight guided his tiny steps through the silent darkness, leading him toward a distant region where the deep blue of the sky began to shift into warm, swirling colors. Soon, Barnaby reached the swirling borders of the Whispering Nebulae, a vast, majestic cloud of soft pastel pinks, deep lavenders, and warm peach dust that danced in slow, elegant patterns across the dark canvas of space. The dust of the nebula was warm and dry, clinging to his silver fur like a light, comforting blanket and making his golden glow shine with a new, brighter intensity. He drifted through the colorful clouds, listening to the soft, rhythmic rustling sound they made as they brushed against one another, a sound that resembled 1,000 quiet voices whispering a gentle, reassuring welcome to the weary traveler. It was a place where time seemed to slow down even further, the swirling dust absorbing all the harsh noises of the universe and replacing them with a soft, visual lullaby. The dust particles tickled his ears as he floated through the glowing clouds, and he felt a sense of wonder that warmed his spirit from the inside out. The colors around him seemed to paint a picture of endless peace, each shade blending into the next without any sharp edges, sudden changes, or jarring transitions. Barnaby closed his eyes for a moment, letting the warm pastel colors wash over him, feeling the cool draft from earlier begin to melt away under the gentle, powdery touch of the colorful cosmic dust. The nebula felt like a giant, soft pillow, supporting him as he drifted deeper into its heart, his movements becoming slower and more relaxed with every passing moment. Deep within the pink clouds, Barnaby met the Nebula Weaver, a giant, gentle creature woven entirely from pure, sparkling starlight who spent her days spinning beautiful silver webs across the cosmos. Her movements were incredibly slow and graceful, her glowing, spider-like legs moving in a silent, ancient rhythm as she drew silver threads from the nearby stars and wove them together. Barnaby watched in awe as the weaver worked, her sparkling eyes reflecting the warm, soft colors of the surrounding nebula as she created her masterfully detailed celestial patterns. She did not seem rushed or burdened by her work. Instead, she moved with a peaceful patience that filled the air around her with a quiet, soothing energy. The weaver was crafting a massive blanket of cosmic dust, weaving intricate patterns of constellations, sleeping planets, and quiet moons into the glowing fabric. Every thread she spun seemed to hum with a quiet, soothing energy, and the blanket itself radiated a soft, nesting warmth that made Barnaby want to curl up and sleep right then and there. He approached the giant weaver slowly, his small golden light glowing politely to show he meant no harm, and asked in a quiet voice if her blanket was the great hug he was searching for. He hoped that his journey might end here, in the warm embrace of the starlight blanket, surrounded by the peaceful patterns of the sky. The weaver stopped her weaving and smiled down at the tiny sprite, her voice sounding like the soft rustling of dry leaves on a quiet autumn night, filled with warmth and ancient kindness. She explained that while her blankets were warm and could protect a traveler from the cold, they were only a small comfort compared to the embrace he sought. The great hug was not something that could be woven from threads or made of physical dust, she said, but she offered to give him a piece of her work to help him on his journey. She reached out with a glowing limb and gently detached a small, shimmering piece of the blanket, letting it drift toward the tiny sprite. The nebula weaver gently wrapped the small, soft shawl of stardust around Barnaby's shoulders, tucking it in place with a strand of silver light that glowed with a soft, steady hum. The shawl felt light as air, yet it immediately blocked out the remaining chill of the cosmic wind, wrapping him in a cozy, glowing warmth that felt like a warm cup of sweet nectar. Barnaby thanked the weaver with a low, respectful bow, feeling a deep sense of gratitude as he drifted away from the pink clouds, the silver shawl trailing behind him like a comet's tail, lighting his path. With the warm shawl protecting him, Barnaby continued his journey, entering the river of silver light, a slow-moving celestial stream that flowed silently between quiet, sleeping planets and glowing moons. The water of the river was not liquid, but a dense, flowing current of silver stardust that moved with a gentle, undulating motion, carrying the light of a million stars. Barnaby found a large, flat leaf made of crystallized starlight drifting near the bank and carefully climbed onto it, sitting down in the center of the glowing leaf. The leaf was cool to the touch but radiated a steady, grounding energy that made him feel safe as he let the current take him. The leaf drifted slowly down the silver stream, carrying Barnaby deeper into the quiet, forgotten regions of the cosmos where the planets were dark, still, and wrapped in peaceful dreams. The river made a low, rhythmic humming sound as it flowed, a deep, resonant vibration that traveled through the starlight leaf and into Barnaby's tiny feet, relaxing his tired muscles. The sound was incredibly soothing, acting like a mother's gentle lullaby that seemed to synchronize with the beating of his own warm, golden core, calming his thoughts and easing his mind. He watched the silver stardust swirl around his leaf, creating tiny whirlpools of light that danced and faded like distant memories. As he drifted, a wise old turtle named Ethelgard swam alongside his leaf, her shell made of cracked black obsidian with glittering gems that sparkled like distant, ancient galaxies. Her movements through the silver water were effortless and slow, her ancient eyes holding the wisdom of 1,000 cosmic cycles and the peace of a long, well-traveled life. Barnaby watched her swim, feeling a sense of deep, unshakable calm just by being near her peaceful, steady presence in the flowing silver river. She did not speak immediately, content to share the silence of the river with the tiny sprite, her slow breaths creating gentle ripples in the silver current. Barnaby leaned over the edge of the leaf, his reflection dancing in the silver dust, and asked the ancient turtle if the river was the great hug, hoping he had finally reached the end of his long search. Ethelgard shook her head slowly, sending soft, glowing ripples of silver light across the stream, and spoke in a deep, rumbling voice that sounded like the earth waking up from a long winter sleep. She told him that the river was a path to help him let go, a place to wash away the dust of travel, but the hug he sought was much larger than any stream or any single path. "The river is here to wash away your worries and prepare your heart," Ethelgard whispered, "but to feel the great hug, you must look beyond the paths and learn to trust the darkness itself, for the darkness is not empty." She swam closer, letting her shell touch the edge of his starlight leaf for a brief moment, sharing a spark of her ancient, grounding energy with the tiny sprite. The touch sent a wave of calm through Barnaby, warming him in a way that went deeper than the silver shawl, and he felt a quiet strength grow within his glowing core, a strength that gave him the courage to continue. Thanking the wise turtle, Barnaby let himself drift off the starlight leaf, floating gently away from the silver river and into the valley of whispering echoes. The air in this valley was warmer than the river, carrying the soft, muffled murmurs of 1,000 ancient, sleeping stars that had long since faded from the sky. The echoes did not speak in words, but in feelings of safety, acceptance, and quiet love that drifted through the warm air like invisible, gentle waves, brushing against his cheeks. It was a place of memory and peace, where the universe stored the quiet thoughts of the stars, keeping them safe for travelers who needed comfort. As Barnaby floated deeper into the valley, the whispers seemed to gather around him, wrapping him in a cocoon of soft, comforting sound that blocked out all other noises and distractions. The echoes spoke directly to his heart, telling him that he was safe, that his journey was watched, and that he did not need to carry any burdens or worries. He looked down at his small satchel, realizing that the stardust and the silver seed he carried were symbols of his fear of running out of light and his attachment to the past. He realized that to find the true warmth of the universe, he had to let go of these fears. The whispers urged him to let go of his small worries and trust the cosmos, for he would need no light of his own where the universe was leading him. Barnaby hesitated for a moment, looking at the satchel, then opened the latch and gently let the glowing stardust scatter into the warm air. He watched the golden dust drift away, painting new, beautiful trails in the dark sky, and felt an immediate, wonderful weight lift from his tiny shoulders as the dust disappeared. The act of letting go felt like shedding a heavy winter coat, leaving him feeling light, free, and open to whatever lay ahead. Next, he took the silver seed, the last reminder of his home in the meadows, and let it fall into the valley below, knowing it would find a place in the soil and grow into a new meadow for others to enjoy. As the seed fell, he felt his silver fur shine brighter, no longer relying on the dust in his bag but radiating a natural, warm light from within his own core. He felt lighter than he ever had before, his body floating effortlessly upward, drawn by a gentle, invisible force toward a large, glowing sanctuary that hovered in the distance. This sanctuary was the Temple of Quietude, a sacred space located inside the center of a massive, hollow comet that drifted silently through the deepest, most peaceful part of the sky. The entrance to the temple was a simple archway made of smooth, dark stone that seemed to absorb the light and sound of the outer cosmos, creating a threshold of absolute silence. Barnaby floated through the archway, his silver shawl glowing softly against the dark, polished walls as he entered the silent inner chamber. The transition from the valley to the temple was seamless, the whispers fading into a deep, velvety silence that felt holy and ancient. The walls of the temple were cool and smooth, lined with ancient stones that held the silence of the beginning of time, a silence that was comforting rather than empty. There were no winds here, no whispers, and no movement. Everything was perfectly still, creating a space of absolute peace where a traveler could rest their mind. Barnaby landed gently on the soft, dark floor, feeling the silence wrap around him like a heavy velvet curtain, shutting out the rest of the busy universe and its endless motion, allowing him to simply exist in the quiet present. In the center of the silent chamber sat a wise old owl made of pure, white stardust, its eyes glowing like two soft, warm suns in the darkness of the temple. The owl did not move, nor did it open its beak, but its presence filled the room with a profound sense of comfort, safety, and unconditional acceptance. Barnaby approached the owl slowly, his tiny steps silent on the soft floor, feeling the warmth of its sun-like eyes shining down on his silver fur and warming him to his very core. He felt no fear, only a deep sense of coming home to a wise, ancient friend. The owl did not speak aloud, but its thoughts entered Barnaby's mind like a gentle, warming breeze that carried no worries, doubts, or expectations. It welcomed the tiny sprite, acknowledging his long journey and his search for the cosmic embrace that would bring him peace. The owl's thoughts were slow, clear, and filled with a gentle wisdom, teaching Barnaby that the warmth he wanted was not something he had to search for in distant places, but something he had to allow himself to feel by opening his heart. The Stardust Owl showed Barnaby how to breathe in synchronization with the slow, deep heartbeat of the cosmos, matching his breath to the steady rhythm of the stars. Barnaby closed his eyes, inhaling the deep, cool silence of the temple and exhaling all the remaining tension in his tiny limbs. With each slow, deliberate breath, he felt his heart beat in perfect time with the quiet temple, his body becoming lighter and warmer with every cycle, the boundaries between himself and the quiet space around him beginning to soften. Barnaby stayed in the silence of the temple for what felt like hours, learning to find the quiet space inside his own chest where the universe's heartbeat lived. He felt the silver shawl on his shoulders merge with his fur, his golden light softening into a steady, warm glow that did not flicker or fade. The owl nodded its head in silent approval, and Barnaby felt a gentle, invisible force lift him from the floor, drifting him slowly toward the archway and out into the open sky. He floated out of the hollow comet and back into the open expanse of the cosmos, leaving the silent temple behind but keeping its deep peace alive inside his heart. He was now in the deepest, most open part of the universe, far away from the meadows, the nebulae, the rivers, and the temples. The space around him was vast, dark, and endless, extending in every direction without limit, yet it no longer felt empty, cold, or intimidating to the tiny traveler. The distant stars seemed to lean closer to him, their light twinkling in a slow, rhythmic pattern that matched his new, steady breathing and the calm heartbeat he had found. The darkness between the stars did not feel like a cold void, but like a soft, welcoming presence that was waiting to receive him, a gentle ocean of shadow that was both safe and nurturing. Barnaby let himself float freely, suspending his body in the gentle, invisible hands of gravity that held every planet and star in their proper place, keeping the cosmos in balance. He closed his eyes and spread his arms wide, letting his body drift in the dark ocean of the cosmos, trusting the universe to hold him and keep him safe. As he did, he felt a soft, warm pressure begin to envelop his entire body, starting from his tiny toes and moving slowly up to his ears. It was a gentle, weightless pressure, like being wrapped in the softest velvet blanket that was perfectly fitted to his tiny shape, holding him close. This warmth did not come from the stars, the dust, or the shawl, but seemed to rise from the dark space itself, cradling him with infinite care and tenderness. It was the most comforting feeling he had ever known, a sense of being completely held, completely safe, and deeply loved by the vastness around him. Barnaby smiled in his sleep, realizing that he had finally found the great hug from the universe, and it was everywhere, in every corner of the sky. The cosmic hum, which he had heard in the river and the nebulae, now sounded like a steady, loving heartbeat that vibrated through his entire body, comforting him. He realized that he did not need to search for this warmth because the universe had been holding him all along, from the very moment he was born. Every star, every cloud of dust, and every inch of the dark sky was part of the same giant, loving embrace, always present and always waiting for him to notice. He understood that he was never truly alone or separate from the cosmos, for he was a part of it, and it was a part of him. The cold wind that had started his journey was not an enemy, but a gentle nudge to guide him toward this realization of endless love and connection. Feeling this truth in his core, Barnaby let all the remaining strength leave his limbs, allowing himself to sink deeper into the warm, cosmic hug that held him. His silver fur glowed with a deep, peaceful golden light, reflecting the warmth of the universe that embraced him from all sides, shielding him from any cold. He felt as though he were floating in a warm, gentle pool of starlight, the light washing over him and taking away the last bits of his fatigue. The journey was over, and he had found the sanctuary he had been looking for, right here in the open sky, surrounded by the stars. The cool cosmic breeze returned, but it did not make him shiver. Instead, it felt like a soft, warm sigh that brushed against his ears, lulling him further into peace. The universe seemed to whisper to him, telling him to rest his tired eyes, let go of his thoughts, and let his mind drift into the quiet, beautiful dreams of the stars. Barnaby listened to the silent whisper, feeling his eyelids grow heavy and his breathing become slow, steady, and deep. He felt completely safe, completely accepted, and deeply connected to every planet, star, and nebula that drifted in the wide, peaceful cosmic ocean. He knew that when he woke, the hug would still be there, holding him as he walked through the meadows or swam in the silver river, a constant source of comfort. For now, there was nothing else he needed to do, no more paths to follow, and no more questions to ask of the silent sky. The meadows of his home, the river of light, the temple of silence, and the open sky were all connected, part of the same beautiful, loving home. Barnaby let his thoughts drift away, like the stardust he had scattered in the valley, leaving only the pure, wordless feeling of warmth and peace. He was cradled in the center of the universe, a tiny sprite resting in the arms of an infinite, loving parent who would never let him go. As the quiet light of the distant stars shone down on him, Barnaby's breathing slowed to a gentle whisper, his small chest rising and falling in perfect, peaceful alignment. The golden glow from his core pulsed softly, a slow, comforting beacon that echoed the heartbeat of the cosmos around him, spreading warmth into the dark. He sank deeper into the soft velvet darkness, feeling the infinite warmth of the universe press gently against his tired body, soothing him. The universe whispered one final, soft lullaby that echoed through the quiet valley of his mind, washing away the last remaining thoughts of his long journey. Barnaby let go of the last thread of waking thought, his mind becoming as quiet, still, and dark as the deep temple in the comet. Surrounded by the warm, endless embrace of the cosmos, the tiny star sprite closed his eyes, smiled, and fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. Barnaby floated through the starry night, a small spark of light in a sea of diamonds, completely at peace with the world. He knew that he was exactly where he belonged, and that the universe would always keep him warm, safe, and loved. The stars shone brightly above him, their light a gentle kiss upon his forehead, as he drifted deeper and deeper into his cozy dreams. The silent space around him seemed to sing a song of comfort, a melody without words that filled his heart with joy and serenity. He felt his breathing slow even further, matching the slow, grand orbit of the distant planets, a steady rhythm that brought a deep sense of stillness. His body felt heavy and relaxed, sinking into the soft cushion of gravity that cradled him like a mother's arms. The silver shawl around his shoulders glowed with a faint, pulsing light, a reminder of the kindness of the nebula weaver and the journey he had taken. He was no longer the cold, shivering sprite from the edge of the meadow, he was a child of the stars, warm and glowing with the light of the universe. The memories of the meadow, the river, and the temple faded into a soft haze, leaving only the warmth. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey, for the cold draft that had pushed him out of his comfort zone, and for the friends who had guided him along the way. Each encounter had been a lesson, a step toward understanding that the love he sought was always there, waiting for him to open his eyes. He smiled at the thought, a small, peaceful smile that lingered on his face as he slept. The stardust in his fur seemed to twinkle in response to the distant constellations, a tiny reflection of the grand design of the cosmos. He was a small piece of a beautiful puzzle, a necessary part of the whole, and he felt a deep sense of belonging that warmed him from the inside. The universe was a home, a sanctuary, and a protector, and he was safe in its care. As the night wore on, the stars continued their slow, silent dance, their light a constant presence in the dark. Barnaby drifted through the sky, a quiet traveler in a land of peace, his heart filled with the warmth of the great hug. He knew that tomorrow would bring new adventures, but for now, there was only the quiet, the warmth, and the sleep. The soft, velvety darkness was his blanket, the stars were his nightlight, and the cosmic hum was his lullaby, keeping him company in the deep night. He let himself sink even deeper, letting go of the last remnants of awareness, surrendering to the peaceful darkness. The universe held him close, its embrace a promise of safety and love that would last forever. In the quiet heart of the cosmos, the tiny star sprite slept, his dreams filled with the silver grass of his home and the warm pink clouds of the nebulae. He was at peace, his heart beating in harmony with the universe, a small, perfect spark in the infinite night. The great hug was real, it was warm, and it was holding him tight, now and forever.